Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 250 of the Super Speedway podcast, recorded Monday, August 22nd, 2022. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined once again this week, welcome back, by my co-host, James Cush. James, how's it going?
Eric, I had to come back for episode 250.
Right? I know. That's awesome, right?
Come on. You kicked me out for a week, but I fought my way back. It's cool.
Yeah. I tried to keep you away, but it didn't work out.
Well, Derek did a dang fine job pretty much making me sound useless. So we're cool. Everything's cool. I'm here.
Well, at least
I came back.
At least now I know when you go absolutely AWOL, I've got a backup. So
when that happens eventually someday.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, we've spent the last 15 minutes tonight working out technical issues, and we still don't know what we worked out. It might still be happening. It might not be. Who knows? So if something sounds off tonight, guys, that's it always sounds off. Let's be frank.
It's never nothing different from what we do around here. So
tonight it might be a
fine.
technical issue and not lack of skill. So
as long as it's recorded, I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
I'll be honest.
Which made me glance over here to make sure I am recording. Yes, I am recording, James. So we're good there.
Yeah, Eric. In all honesty, do you think the listeners missed me at all? I mean, let's be real. Let's be real.
I mean, were you gone? I didn't notice.
Exactly. See. So if I come back and there's a technical issue or anything, they're not even going to notice.
Right, that's
they're
true.
Like, that guy's back.
I think we have to have listeners for them to notice that somebody's
That's
gone.
right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So, let's talk some racing, James. We were at, we weren't, but the NASCAR series were at Watkins Glen Raceway this weekend. The Go Bowling at the Glen, and we had a little teammate battle for the win at the end of this one. Chase gets himself roughed up by old Kyle Larson, and Larson gets the win. What do you think?
Would you call that a kerfuffle?
I don't know. I wanted to ask you that. So, I mean, do you see anything wrong with what Larson did to Chase Elliott on that final restart?
Not particularly, no.
If you're Chase Elliott, do you see anything wrong with what Kyle Larson did on that last restart? If
I am Chase Elliott, I don't choose the lane I chose in the first place.
Okay.
Would be my I guess my train of thought there, but since
I was wondering, why in the hell did he choose the outside lane?
Yeah, I'm like, you're just asking to get used up there.
Yeah.
I don't. This is that corner. I think we know, Eric. We've been watching Watkins Glen our whole life, right?
Right.
That corner is such a tricky, fast, flat, crazy corner. You're bound to have something happen, especially when the aggression's ramped up like it is.
Yeah.
I mean, Larson didn't completely dump him. He definitely cost him the race win.
Right.
But didn't ruin his day, I guess. That being said, if that was Ross Chastain blowing up Chase Elliott like that, well, I don't know how I would feel either.
That's what I was going to ask. Let's put Denny Hamlin in Chase Elliott's position and Ross Chastain in Larson's and see how everybody feels about it.
Right. I would say though that Larson and Chase, for that matter, they get the benefit of the doubt as champions of this sport. They get a little bit of grace, I think. But that's what NASCAR wants with road courses. There's a reason we have so many road courses.
That's what NASCAR wants with,
everything.
We're going to sit here and talk about plans in place for this next race at Daytona. And here you got two teammates that they weren't working together at all. They were fighting for the win, and that was it. And that's what we want. We want 100% all the time, and we got it,
Yep. If you're a Kyle Larson fan, heck yeah, man, go get it. You haven't. Yeah. You've had a good season, but compared to last year, it's definitely a step back,
right,
for him. But he's definitely a serious contender, and he's got to get some more playoff points any way he can. Race wins are hard. They're really hard, and they were easier for Larson last year than they've been this year. But he's got to go get one, and he did, improving his playoff opportunity for another championship.
Well, and he beat the road course king.
Yeah, again. He's
yeah.
gotten a couple of these. Yeah, he's gotten a couple of these here.
Well, and this is the second time he and Chase have had a run in too.
Yeah.
And Larson's come out on top both times. Does Chase? I mean, do we see any retaliation? And by retaliation, I don't mean Chase is going to go wreck Larson. We know that's not going to happen. But does Chase make Larson's life difficult in the playoffs, or does he do cooler heads prevail?
I think they have the benefit of the debrief meetings during the week to cool off.
Because Chase was pissed after that.
Yeah,
race.
and he did I saw the greatest tweet was somebody compared him to Derek Jeter, basically not saying anything at all in the post-race interview.
Right.
You could tell he was extremely agitated. And then
Dave Burns was trying so hard.
Yeah, and then he forgot what race was next on the schedule, right. which has turned into a whole thing this week too.
Yes, I've seen that.
So Denny Hamlin said on to Bristol, I think, on his Instagram today too, which was great. But yeah, that Chase, I used to joke years ago, and Chase has come a long way since, but I used to joke that he was vanilla ice cream, and Jimmy Johnson was that too. You never say anything.
Right.
But Chase doesn't quite do that very much anymore, but I think Chase, the company man, definitely held back from what he was actually feeling there.
The difference too is that if Jimmy Johnson did this, you wouldn't have been able to tell that Jimmy was irritated, but you could tell that Chase was mad. Yeah,
he didn't like that. I think he felt, and he has a right to be angry, and not that he doesn't. I think he expects that his teammate's going to give him a little bit more grace there and not have contact with him and at least race him for it. You could argue on Kyle Larson's part that he is racing for it. He's going to use what he's got.
Right.
So I think it goes hand in hand. You have two drivers who are, I don't know, Eric, I don't know where you place them. This is a debate for another day, but you've got two guys who are definitely top 3, top 5 drivers in this series. They have the same equipment. They're both fantastic road course racers. Something's got to give somewhere, and I don't know if Kyle Larson made a mistake there.
This is what happens when you have two of the best drivers in the series in the same stable.
Yeah, you've got apex predators basically up front for a win. Something's got to give somewhere, and did Kyle overdrive it a little bit? Probably, but he's being aggressive there, which I think you have to be.
Well, the best thing there was that Kyle got 2 shots at it.
He did.
When they had that second restart, it's like he's not gonna lose that lead the second time.
Yes.
Darn well he knows what he needs to do now to get past him in that corner. He's going to take that lead, and he's going to wrestle him out of the way. An interesting aspect of this too that if you don't listen to the Teardown, Jeff Gluck's podcast, you might not know. So I was wondering because I saw a video that Chase was in the media center after the race, and it used to be the first, second, and third place drivers would be in the media center after the race, and since they switched to this bullpen thing, now top 5 come to the bullpen on the front stretch, and just the winner goes to the media center. So I'm like, why the heck is Chase Elliott in there? Did he go in there voluntarily? Well, because Chase Elliott won the regular season championship, he was required to go to the media center. And it sounds like he was irritated enough that he went to the media center quickly and then was stuck in there while nobody was there, including NASCAR, to start the press conference, and had to stand there, and they play the TV audio in the room. So they're sitting there playing the audio of everybody asking everybody else about the contact, and Kyle Petty talking about it, and these guys, all these guys breaking it down, and Chase is sitting in there just steaming, waiting to get his stupid interview done so he can go home. So that's even funnier.
Is there anything that these drivers, if I've learned anything over the past couple of years, these drivers could give a dang about that regular season trophy.
Right.
They just want their points, and they want their points, and they want to go home. They don't want the media availability for being the regular season champion.
No.
So that probably added to his frustration. A little bit.
Exactly. So I mean, overall, this race, we've been complaining about road course races all season with this car.
Yeah.
This race just turned it right on its head and was definitely, I'm not even going to ask you, James, this was the best road course race of the year.
Yeah.
And honestly, pretty high up in just overall races of the year.
Yeah. Top 5 race of the year overall, I think. And I think what we had going for us was we had the race start in the wet.
Yep.
which is a complete wild card.
Yeah.
And you put
oh my gosh, it made that first stage just so interesting.
Yeah, and you got Chase Briscoe somehow slinging it around and getting up there, and there's some pit strategy going on.
And there is no way, James, that I thought the strategy of the Hendrick cars to stay out until they could pit for fuel was going to work.
Yep.
I thought they lost too much. There's no way they were going to come back and win that race.
Yep. And I'd said before, or after Sonoma, I said I'm never going to talk about road course. Or was it Sonoma or was it?
I don't remember.
Was it Road America?
It was every single one, James.
But I said I'm never going to talk about stages and road courses again. I'm not going to. But this was a lot of. This actually was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
the
it
way
worked
this
time.
out. Yeah. And I think it's because we had that wild card element of starting in the wet and
well,
you put
it forced
in the notes,
people to get off of the 2-stop strategy.
Exactly, because they had to take the dry or the wet tires off to start running slicks because the track dried extremely fast once the cars were at full song out there. The groove was basically fairly dry within 20 laps or so.
Yeah, there's nothing better than a wet to dry
it was fun,
road course race. The only thing that would have made it more exciting was to see it start to rain again and have to make the decision to go back to rain tires at some point.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that. I mean, there was an IndyCar race, I think it was this year at Indianapolis early in the season before the 500 where we had the same sort of scenario play out, but it did go back to rain again afterwards. Yeah. And man, it was so interesting. And that one, even some drivers came in and put on dry tires too early and had to come back in and take them back off and go back to the wets. It's just incredible.
Yeah. And I have to admit, about being wrong about something here because I was texting a buddy of mine before the race and he was bummed because he's like, man, I wish we could start this thing.
Yeah.
And I said, honestly, in my opinion, NASCAR should never run in the wet again after what happened at COTA. And I know they're being careful. But they got this track in working order, which they didn't do at COTA last year, which was why it turned into such a disaster. I think NASCAR, to their credit, has learned from their past mistakes, and they got this track to a respectable condition, and they ran the race to where they felt that they could, and it works. It does work when you've got the right set of circumstances in front of you. That NASCAR, yes, they can run in the wet. We can't run in downpours apparently, but
that's the thing is there is a
works.
difference between racing in the rain and racing in the wet. And what we did on Sunday was race in the wet. IndyCar has raced in the rain for years, and they had a race in Mid-Ohio that they had to stop because of rain a couple years ago. There is such thing, even with rain tires, as too much rain to have a safe race. And I might even go back and argue that when we raced at Portland earlier this year, that maybe it was too much, and that wasn't the right scenario to be running in the wet. Whereas this was the absolute perfect scenario. They waited, they got the track in workable condition, and they didn't look like idiots, James.
Yeah. I tell you, the funniest thing about the whole situation was I saw the Air Titans out there, and they were trying to get the standing water off the track. And those bad boys were nothing more than a squeegee pushing water around. Yeah. There was no air coming out of those things when they were so deep in the water. I was like, oh my God, look at those.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Eric, real-time thing. I just rewatched the restart again because it popped up on my Twitter. As I tend to check Twitter just in case we miss news, which we usually do.
Right.
I'm going to add another take to that one.
Okay. Chase
Elliott, don't get beat off the green flag like you did, because he tries to hold Larson down, and Larson, I think, slips up a little bit, but he had him beat going into the corner. So I'll add that to my take.
Yeah, I think if I was Chase Elliott, I'd be irritated too.
Yes.
But I don't think Larson, Larson did nothing wrong even as a teammate. He raced him into turn one. They all were going wide in that turn, so it's not like he went off the track when nobody else did. The entire field went off the track. I don't have the replay right in front of me like you do. But
yeah, I was just looking at it. I'm like, yeah, I got another thought on this.
There is absolutely nothing wrong there with what happened.
Yeah, it was good.
But if I'm Chase Elliott, I remember that when Larson's trying to pass me later on. But hey, Chase should race Larson hard anyway. They're racing each other for a championship.
Exactly.
You're not going to see Chase do what he did to Harvick last year. He's not going to go and do the Bristol thing and sit in front of him, despite the fact that he mentioned Bristol in his post-race interview.
That was so funny, yeah.
He's not going to do that to Larson over this. That would be stupid.
Yep.
Would he have done it at the end of that race? Yeah, hell yeah, he would have. But he'll be over it by the time we get to the next track. So.
Yep. Oh yeah, they'll be fine.
He'll forget all about it by Daytona.
Yep, I think so.
Kimi Räikkönen made his Cup Series debut this weekend with that Project 91 team out of Trackhouse. I mean, we made the mistake last week. This is one thing that Derek and I screwed up on. We never even mentioned him last week coming into this race. And I think my reasoning for it was not so much to ignore the fact that we had an F1 champion come into race in the Cup Series, but just I didn't really expect. I expected him to be a mid-pack guy. I think he really impressed for what the expectations were going into this one. I mean, some people really expected him to come out and make everybody look silly, but I think most people really expected him to be buried in the pack. I think a lot of people kind of expected him to end up about where he ended up with trouble. But I mean, that was he got Chastains, James.
His teammate got into him. Eric, that Project 91, this is the first time we've got a chance to see it in action. Yeah. And that is a fast race team with good resources now, and that is a nice opportunity to expand NASCAR's viewership across the pond.
Totally.
I guess. Because you put Kimi Räikkönen in a good car, he worked his way into the top 10, was looking really strong.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to win this race or anything, but I think a top 10 for him would have been phenomenal. And he was there. He was gaining speed throughout the race, but, wiped out. But, if we can continue to see that 91 car add some more opportunities for F1 type drivers or, things of that, or guys of that nature, I guess, that's going to be really cool because, I was listening to the Teardown today as well. And a lot of first-time NASCAR viewers, and they tuned in to see a great race because Kimi was in it. So, very, very cool. I loved it. Seeing Darian Grubb on the box.
Right.
That's awesome. I love Darian Grubb for obvious reasons. So I'm glad to see him doing his thing again.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's a cool program. And like you said, we've got a competitive car to put these guys in. And I know that it was, I can't remember if it's Jordan or Jeff that mentioned it on the Teardown, but we've had these things before where somebody from another series says they'd love to come try NASCAR, but there's never an opportunity to put them in a good car.
Right.
And here is we know this is a top-notch team, top-notch cars this season, that he gets an opportunity to come in. I mean, these guys, he's a Formula One champion. He doesn't want to come over here and look stupid. Right. So you put him in something that's competitive and give him a shot. And I mean, again, I don't think most people expected him to come out and win, but he was very respectable, and I think Kimi did a good job of playing the role and being a Cup driver for the weekend, and I think just impressed across the board. So I think everybody benefited from it. NASCAR, Formula One, Kimi, Trackhouse, everybody. I mean, it was just all around a good deal and very cool to see. I can't wait to see the next one.
Yeah, I can't. Gosh, and he was still racing in F1 not too long ago either.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
He's fresh out of the car.
I think he's still racing in the game that I have, the most recent F1 game that I've purchased.
Well, he raced 20 of 22 races last year, so he's one step out of the car basically. But at age 42 now. But one of the funny things from Kimi that I saw was him and Kyle Busch yakking it up before the race, and I don't know if people know that story, but that got a little ugly back in 2011 with some sponsorship stuff. That kind of went down between Kimi getting over here and Kyle.
Yeah.
So they must be over that by now, I figured. So
Kyle was asked about that in the pre-race press conference too. I actually took the time to watch the entire press conference with Kyle Busch. It was like 15, 20 minutes long because there were some good questions in there. Dustin Long got a great answer out of him over contract talks. We'll talk about all that later. But he was asked about that and said that somehow in the whole deal they never exchanged phone numbers. So he's hoping to chat with him this weekend.
Oh man, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Kimi, just to put people, give him a little perspective on him just a little bit more. In 2018, he was third in the F1 championship standings with a win. So he's not that far removed from being super competitive.
Right.
And his championship was way back in 2007. A lot has changed since then. But he is a 21-time winner in Formula One, which is the most popular form of motorsports in the world right now.
Well, you don't get guys in Formula One that stick around for 20
years,
30 years like you do in NASCAR.
Yeah, exactly.
There's 20 seats.
He's probably the most decorated F1 driver to come over in quite a while, even more so than Juan Pablo Montoya was. I don't have his numbers up in front of me, but I think he won like six races in F1, including Monaco, which of course is one of their crown jewels. But
right,
and Juan, people forget how good he was after some time in NASCAR. He actually he made a championship push with about 5 races to go. Gosh, Eric, the year escapes me. I want to say either 2009 or 2010. He was having a really strong playoff.
Yeah,
and there was a chance he could sneak a championship.
And at that time, Ganassi was not what Trackhouse is today. I mean, they were a good team, but they were not a leading team.
No, he definitely brought some credibility back over. I mean, that was about the time McMurray was stealing every crown jewel in the book.
Right.
But that was pretty much it. There was no consistency there back then. So pretty cool. Yeah, this was neat. I really enjoyed seeing him out there.
Yeah, it was very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the next one. I don't know that I don't think we've got an announcement on the next one, have we? I know that
I haven't seen anything on it yet.
I know that Elio wants to come race NASCAR, and everybody immediately pointed to this, but nothing's been done in that aspect from what I've heard.
Well, yeah, Elio. Didn't Justin Marks say he's got a seat for him for the Daytona 500? So that might be
I think
one of the next opportunities.
I think it's been one of those things that everybody said stuff in the media, but there's nothing been like actually done with it.
Yeah,
I think it's just all talk at this point.
All hearsay. Yeah.
AJ Allmendinger gets another second place finish in the Cup Series. Potentially, I mean, another restart. Likely had a shot at the win. Certainly very equal to Kyle Larson there at the end. I mean, I know I looked at Twitter today and Reddit and saw people calling him a one-trick pony, but I'm sorry. I still think that this guy, he's capable of a Cup ride, and he's capable of contending for a championship yet in the Cup Series. Man, I would love to see him get a full-time ride with Kaulig.
Yeah, he's
outperforming that car because that car has not been as good as AJ has been.
Yeah, he's just a special. He had no business being up there and found his way up there late. There was just he didn't show much sign all day, and just found his way again. Didn't even lead a lap in this race. He's just there, just a smart driver. Gets through it and had a good solid day. I know he wishes he could have won, and I think he finished second in the Xfinity Series race too. So he did. He had a good weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Michael McDowell did his best to turn the championship upside down. Contending for a win, led 14 laps, ends up 6th. Kind of fell back at the end. Didn't quite have it at the end, but I mean, they mentioned again on the teardown that, he finished outside the top 3, and we're like, man, that's disappointing because he ran so good all day. But, when a 6th place finish is disappointing for Michael McDowell, that's pretty good. That tells you something about his season.
And what's really cool about him is you could see his skill on the wet.
Oh yeah.
Where it's the great equalizer, but he just doesn't have the car compared to everybody else. I know the next gen car can close some of those gaps, but there's still a gap.
Yeah, there definitely is. Especially now at this point in the season, there's definitely a gap.
Yeah,
those guys that have the resources know where to put the clear tape to make sure that the car's faster than the others.
Yeah, right.
He's got those guys. Kyle Larson's got the high-end aerodynamic windshield wiper, James.
Yes,
Michael McDowell probably doesn't have that.
That's right.
Hasn't been developed by engineers in the wind tunnel.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What else? Anything else worth mentioning in this one? It's still fresh in my mind. I just watched it late last night. But
Tyler Reddick battling back from a spin in the carousel. He looked like he was out to lunch and found his way up to 7th somehow.
Yep.
That killed my fantasy day because I benched him for Kyle Busch, and that killed me.
Yeah.
Joey Hand was having a nice run.
Yes.
Had some issues that put him in the back, and then another guy who was having a great stretch was Todd Gilliland.
Yes.
And of course that ended with the rear end brake. His rear axle broke, but yeah, he led 5 laps, was battling. That was incredible. The track was still a little damp, and Kyle Busch was up there just bulldozing people. It was, I mean, yeah, that was. Kyle Busch looked like he was driving angry, which I really liked.
Right.
So, yeah, that was man, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see some of those guys. I mean, we had a lot of guys that just aren't up there all the time.
Kyle finishes second in stage 1, 9th in stage 2, and then ends up 32nd.
32nd. Yeah, 1 lap down. First car 1 lap down. Yep.
Another one worth mentioning that was up front for a bit was Mike Rockenfeller, the 77 car. He had a decent run for a while. He ended up, I think he was in the accident with Tyler Reddick, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or was it somebody else?
Yep.
Maybe it was Austin Dillon. I can't remember. He was involved in one of the accidents.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. Yeah, who else? Yeah, the Kimmy crash was what I was thinking of, but we already talked. We kind of talked through that. So.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think, I said after Coda, or maybe I don't remember if it was after Coda at some point I said maybe we shouldn't be racing in the rain. But this won me over, and I was excited going into this. I was ready to see another rain race. It's interesting, especially 2 races to go in the regular season. You don't know. We like chaos, James.
Yes, we do.
And I don't want to see chaos like what we saw at Coda. I don't want to see people getting hurt. I don't want to see ridiculous wrecks. But definitely want to see the chaos of the uncertainty, and we got a little bit of that, and still ended up with one of the old favorites back up front getting the win. But good on NASCAR for putting this together. Good on NASCAR for coming up with
good show,
a good tire, a good package, everything that just made it work this weekend. And thank goodness the lightning stayed away so we could actually race. So
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, that was rough. That was looking pretty rough, but we got it in, which was good. Absolutely.
I was following on Twitter all afternoon until I saw the race was going. It's like, okay, my YouTube TV now is going to record every time Harry Potter and whatever Harry Potter was that was after the race, because I set it up to record just in case they cut away, and I didn't want to miss the end of the race.
Oh, and you get your bonus Harry Potter time.
Yeah, so, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing with YouTube TV is you can just set it up to record everything. So I'll just go, like, if there's a rain race, and I was worried about NBC changing the channel, but I'll just sit there and I will set it up to record everything in the lineup that day, and then that stuff just records for all eternity.
Yep. There you go.
So eventually I'll just have it record everything, and I won't have to worry. Everything will be there.
Exactly. Yep. Just like you have your own streaming service. Then
I will knock on wood right now, but I have not been burned by having a race not record, or the ending of a race not record.
Now you did it.
I know.
Now
right?
you did it.
I know.
Now you did it.
So, all right, there you go. That's Watkins Glen for the Cup Series. Again, one of the best races, or better races of the season. Definitely the best road course race that we've seen this year. Austin Cindric, highest finishing rookie, in 13th. We mentioned Chase Elliott clinches the regular season championship. That was his first time in his career, but nobody cares because it's just the regular season championship. The only thing that matters is he gets 15 extra playoff points.
That's right. That's right.
There you go. And Martin Truex Jr. dangling back there. And, I think this is a better scenario, James, than if we would have gotten a new winner this weekend, because now everybody's kind of got to go for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
man.
I'm looking forward to Daytona.
Yeah, I'm excited for Daytona. I can't even, man.
It's going to be a good time. I will be sitting in a hotel in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, God.
Watching that one. Yeah, I know, right? Don't worry, I'm not there for long.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's just a stop on the way, so I don't have to drive 10 and a half hours in the car with my wife and kids straight.
The only thing good about Columbus, Ohio, is that sometimes Ohio State kicks the University of Michigan's butt, which I always enjoy, as I like to needle Michigan people. I'm sorry.
I won't cheer for anything Ohio related except for Eldora. So
there you go. Yeah.
Maybe Cedar Point, but that's it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. There you go.
NASCAR Xfinity Series was in action the day before. Kyle Larson gets the win. AJ Allmendinger finishes second.
Yep.
But I guess the talk of the race was the contact between Ty Gibbs and William Byron going into the bus stop.
Yes.
Put blame on anybody, James? Was it at a racing deal, or should somebody have lifted?
If you're Ty Gibbs, what are you lifting for?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, if you're William Byron, what are you lifting for too? I mean, he's just there to win. So
yeah, and Ty Gibbs isn't really losing anything, I guess,
Nope.
at this point in the season.
I think he's pretty well locked up. I think even for next year, James. So
Yeah. So yeah, go for it, guys. This is what the Xfinity Series is all about.
yeah. There you go.
It was kind of fun seeing those HendrickCars.com cars up front, just mirrors of each other with the 17 and the 88. Just reminds me of like some old NASCAR days where we had some paint schemes that were very similar. Which always makes me laugh when we've got that going on. I enjoy that.
It was neat to see the sit-in JRM driver beat the sit-in Hendrick driver.
That's right.
Junior was down in the media center after the race. I was so bummed that this wasn't a race that I was covering because I would love to have Junior down in the media center when I was there.
Yeah.
But he was down there and they asked him a bunch of questions. Of course, he's racing at North Wilkesboro in a couple weeks, so they asked him about that and stuff too. And just anytime they get to ask some questions to Junior is pretty cool. So again, I went on NASCAR's media site and watched the entire post race with him, just to see what he had to say. So pretty cool. So yeah, I mean. And Junior, pointed out in his post-race press conference that, having somebody like Kyle Larson come in, the drivers they have racing for JRM are no slouches. Justin Allgaier is a great presence. Noah Gregson's a great driver. But you got what Junior says, and he's right. Arguably the best driver in the world right now. Yeah. Or one of them at least. In the top 5 probably. Yeah. Of drivers in the world right now to come sit in your equipment and tell you what they think and give you advice and notice things that you notice and confirm that or maybe give you a different way to look at something that they've been experiencing and whatnot. So it's a great deal for Junior Motorsports to have him in that car. Just a cool deal all around. It's something you don't really think about, and you don't get that owner's aspect from Junior.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, on the other side of that too, that team is also recruiting for somebody for the 9 seat. Yeah. So, you've got a lot of kind of stuff going on there with some sponsorship opportunities. You can say, hey, these cars can win. You get maybe some other drivers interested in that seat, whoever, it can help with a lot of those different things too. So
I am not going to put words in Dale Jr.'s mouth, but he made it seem very clear that that is not going to be a part-time rotating driver lineup for that 9 car. That will be full-time car next year. Yeah. Sounds like the announcement's coming soon on it, so we'll see.
Yeah, I would expect that very, very soon. Right.
You never know. Xfinity Series, you can make decisions really late in the year, but I think that one's going to be tied up pretty soon. I think that's one of the most sought-after seats in the garage for the Xfinity Series. Wanted to shout out Stanley Smith, finishes 3rd in this one. Again, impressing in that 18 car. He's been pretty impressive the last couple of weeks. And another young driver in the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota stable that maybe has some opportunities down the road. So
yeah, yep. Points implications with Justin Allgaier wrecking 4 laps into the race. Pretty much clinches the regular season championship for Mr. AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah.
That was a 50-point swing, and now Justin's 70 points out. So he's
that
not
is a bummer.
It.
Just all on his own, man.
Yeah, I know the playoffs. How many races do they have left before the playoffs here? I think we've got
4 races.
We've got it in the notes.
Yeah.
It's not over, but they've got some work to do now. So
yeah, I believe they wrap up at Bristol.
Yeah, so they've got they got a little ways to go to get there. So
yeah.
Isn't that funny? We'll have the trucks in the Cup Series running in the playoffs in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, it's so weird.
3 races to go after this week.
Yeah. Sheldon Creed. Oh, I almost forgot.
Sheldon Creed.
Led a few laps in this one. No, he didn't. He ran mid-stage, but was up in the mix a little bit at one point in this race. Falls back to 8th, but still gets a top 10 finish. Jeremy Clements with a top 10 finish, finishes 10th, so good for him. Cole Custer was kind of in the running, ends up just outside of the top 10. Trying to remember what else is worth discussing. Ty Gibbs ends up 27th with the late wreck. I think that's about it, James.
I think so.
Not much else to talk about there. So, 4 races to go before the playoffs for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Sheldon Creed, Anthony Alfredo, Matt Mills, and Brett Moffitt hanging out in the outside the cutoff, outside looking in.
Yep.
Ryan Stieg hanging on, Landon Castle hanging on right at the tail end there. So Interesting look at.
Yep.
It's really funny because it feels like the Xfinity Series is really competitive, but honestly, if you're not JRM or Ty Gibbs, you really haven't done anything this year.
JRM, Ty Gibbs, or AJ Allmendinger.
Yeah, that's about it. So.
Yep.
But there you go. That's Watkins Glen in a nutshell. Some news stuff to talk about. It's mostly contract stuff because hey, it's silly season, right?
Yeah.
I guess kind of all these intertwine a little bit, but we'll talk about Eric Almirola first. Jim Utter with the report early in the weekend that Eric Almirola has decided not to retire and will return to SHR in 2023. And then Eric Almirola was asked by media, and he says, "No, nothing's decided yet." So
Eric looked angry about that. Did you? I
didn't see it.
Okay, I was gonna say, am I wrong there? But he was stone faced, and usually Eric's a pretty happy guy.
Yeah.
By the way, did you see him knock those bowling pins down in that video? That was awesome.
Yeah.
Go look that up. Just Google that, you'll find it. But Eric, you gotta love that Jim Utter may have jumped the gun a little bit. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, if he ends up being right, then he didn't jump the gun. I mean. Just because he got it out there before the announcement doesn't mean that he was wrong. So
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
Maybe Eric's upset that the news got out before they were ready to announce it.
Maybe that's the case. Maybe. I mean, right now, unless the name's on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
The fact that we've got the winningest driver in NASCAR as far as championships, at least right now, active driver. Without a contract until the ink's dry, I wouldn't be assuming anything is done. So
well, that's the thing, right? Once Kyle Busch lands wherever he lands, the rest of the dominoes will fall. But if you're SHR, you gotta stay in the mix with that. Even if you're falling out of the race, you can't dry the ink on Eric Almirola unless you know 100% that Kyle Busch is gone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no offense to Eric Almirola. I respect Eric Almirola, but Eric Almirola or Kyle Busch, come on.
Well, there's not.
I mean, I'm sure Almirola's taking a lot less money than Kyle Busch would, but
there's not. I can't get very far down the list of drivers before I'd say, no, I won't replace them with Kyle Busch. Right. I mean, it's. Would you replace Kyle Larson with Kyle Busch? Well, no.
Right.
But eventually you're going to get down the line and you'll be like, yeah. So
would you
there's no offense there.
Would you replace William Byron with Kyle Busch?
Oh, boy.
It's a tough one, right? Because you think, I mean, you got to think that Byron's still got, he's got so much potential. But what does Kyle have right now? And will Byron realize that potential?
Yeah,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it, but boy, I'd have a chat about it. And I love William Byron.
Yeah, that's why I asked you. That's why that's the driver I went with.
Yeah, he's probably on the cut line for me. I just think the growth there. You and Derek had really good talk about this last week. I really appreciated his opinion on it. But you've got to, at some point, you got to weigh the financials and the prospect versus the financials and the top end of what you're getting with Kyle Busch.
Yeah, I think the return on investment that you're getting, and don't get me wrong, there's no question that, I mean, this isn't a decision that's being made. If Kyle was to go to Hendrick, I think everybody's pretty much assuming Alex Bowman's going to be the one taking the hike.
Yeah. Look at them side by side this year. Kyle Busch 1 win. Yeah. William Byron 2.
Yeah.
And you're both in the championship hunt. So
well, and again, the thing that you don't consider in that aspect is that I'm sure Kyle's asking price is double that of what William Byron's is.
Yeah.
At least double. So
absolutely.
So we don't know yet what's going on with Almirola. What we do know is that Kurt Busch will not be back in the 45 car until at least after Daytona. They announced before Watkins Glen he'd miss the following 2 weeks of the regular season. Not surprising because, I mean, you don't want to take somebody with a concussion and bring them back at a twisting road course or a super speedway where they have a potential to take a big hit. Yep. But at the same time, this isn't something that they just get to go, well, we don't think it's a good idea, so we're just going to sit out. I mean, this is a doctor's decision and it has to be backed up with a doctor's opinion.
Yes.
For him to get the waiver. So I mean, this brings up a really interesting conversation, James, as to what happens if Kurt doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And do we make that announcement before Daytona, or so we know what we're racing for? Does NASCAR give him the waiver, leave him in the playoffs, and let him take a 16th place finish? What's the right decision? I mean, hopefully he comes back and we don't have to worry about any of this, but I mean, in theory, he could come back 2 races or 3 races into the playoffs and get a win and still advance to the next round. So
that's right. Yep.
I mean, unless you're certain he's not coming back, you leave him in, right?
Yeah, you have to. He's already been granted the waiver, and if you're 23-11, you ain't giving up a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So you ride this out, even if it is the 3rd race of the playoffs.
I personally think, and this may not be a popular opinion, but I think NASCAR should make the decision now and say, Kurt has a waiver to get into the playoffs. We're leaving him in the playoffs. If Kurt doesn't return, even if we know before Daytona that he's not returning, he's in the playoffs. He'll finish 16th. That spot is not an open spot for somebody to race for.
That's right. He's earned it.
Draw the line. Yeah, he's earned the spot. It makes things less complicated with owner points and all that stuff too, and separating those 2 championships. But I mean, I don't know how exactly the implications work as far as monetary rewards and all that. But because they're in the playoffs, if they pull him out of the playoffs, the team would still be in the playoffs. But how does that work with contingency money? Are they in a better, because you get monetary rewards years down the road based on the finish this year.
Right.
So if they move him out and he falls back to, 18th, 20th in points as a driver, does that screw up the return on investment in that team down the road too? So there's all kinds of factors in this that you don't even think about.
Right.
And I don't know how all that works. I don't think a lot of the media probably knows how that works. So I don't know.
And if you're Toyota, you got to be like, dang it, we have Martin Truex Jr. on the outside looking in.
Right.
we could get that guarantee, a little bit more of a guarantee with Truex in there. But
I would really like NASCAR to just draw the line and say, we're not going to have any funny business. We're not going to have a Jeff Gordon 13th driver in the playoffs. This is it. Kurt's in. He's clinched a spot. Whatever happens, happens.
He's earned his spot. Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I don't know that I feel right speculating about Kurt Busch here. I mean, we haven't talked to him or anything like that. We haven't seen him. But what does this do to 2311?
Man, yeah. I don't know.
I assume they know more than we do. So I'm assuming they're preparing and everything for that. But of course, this has thrown a wrench into the Kyle Busch situation because, as we've noted every week, and we had long discussions every week, Kyle still is not signed with JGR to extend his contract. It's looking less and less likely that that's going to happen. Rumors are that the talks have completely stopped between the 2 entities, but I don't know how accurate those reports are. So, this becomes potentially an opportunity for Kyle Busch. I know a lot of people say, well, it's a monster car and Kyle's got rowdy energy. But, I mean, that's just a sponsorship deal, and you'd assume that Monster is going to go with Ty Gibbs anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't see that being an issue. Kyle said actually Dave Moody asked the question in his pre-race press conference whether Rowdy Energy could step up and sponsor him, and he said no. He said that Rowdy Energy is something they've built for maybe when this deal that he's working on now ends, that maybe there's an opportunity there then, but it's too early in the life cycle of that business. Yeah. He said they're not in the red yet with that or in the black yet with that business. So no way could they sponsor him. So yeah, I mean, you got Ty Gibbs waiting in the wings, who could certainly step into this car or step into the 18 car. You got Kyle Busch, who could certainly step into this car. And who knows what else? You got Tyler Reddick that's still over at RCR that maybe they could steal away early, even though it seems unlikely.
It's starting to sound like Pop is trying to sever that relationship as soon as possible.
Yeah.
That's what I've been seeing. I don't know if you've seen some of that same stuff, Eric, but
I don't know that I've seen that aspect of it, but what I have seen, James, that has really surprised me is when I see talk, and I don't know how reliable some of these sources are. There's a lot of Reddit and Twitter and all that stuff. So take it for what it's worth, but little things that I keep seeing keeps pointing to Kyle Busch going to RCR, and I cannot even imagine that happening. It seems so unlikely.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I could see a scenario where Tyler Reddick goes to 23-11 early and Kyle goes to RCR.
Yeah, and it's just crazy.
Isn't it? I mean, you really think...
We've come a long way since Hold My Watch.
Who would have thought? Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, who cares about that, though? I mean, think about it. Darrell Waltrip drove for Dale Earnhardt, you know? I mean...
Oh, yeah.
We've had...
Bubba Wallace drives for Denny Hamlin
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not like the first time that's happened where somebody's taken a swing at somebody and then ended up their buddy later on.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you know, we talked about Rick Hendrick. Rick Hendrick and Kyle Busch had their history, and
now they're best. Yeah,
they're neighbors and buddies. So,
yep.
I don't know, man. I think the only thing that's pretty certain at this point now is that he's not going to be in the 18 car, right?
It's looking that way. It's looking that way. I cannot believe. I was thinking about this today. And because I'm thinking about, okay, we're going to talk about this and this and this on the pod. And I'm like, and I cannot believe we're going to have to keep talking about Kyle. And we got 11 races left.
I know. It's not going to last that long, though, right? This
know
thing's going to be sealed up by Darlington or right after, right?
It's got to be soon. Yeah. I mean, Kyle's got to be able to run these playoffs without this hanging over his head. And he said as much this week.
Yeah.
That this is taking a toll on him.
Yes. Dustin Long, great question in the media center and got a terrific answer from Kyle Busch. And one of the things Kyle said is that things are going to be different than they have been the last 15 years. And some people took that to mean, oh, there it is. He's definitely leaving JGR.
Yep.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying that he's taking a pay cut. And it's going to be a big pay cut. But again, I don't think he's staying with JGR. If he was staying with JGR, this would be signed, sealed, and delivered at this point. So
and the Teardown did a good job of this as well. They said, you know, Kyle Busch taking a pay cut. You know, it looks different than when you and I, you know, when inflation hit us, right? It looks different. You have to get rid of your Netflix subscription or whatever. You know, you have to make these decisions. Those decisions look different for Kyle Busch, but they're decisions
it's a
nonetheless.
Private jet.
Like, that's a lifestyle. But it is lifestyle changes, and Kyle talked about that. Like, he wants to be able to be present for Brexton in his journey, and that's going to be more difficult with whatever this next contract looks like. I hate that the NASCAR business model does this to our champions. I cannot believe that in the last 2 years we've had Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch both in these horrendous contract situations.
Well, add Tyler Reddick to the mix.
Well, and at this point in their career, where they should be rewarded for their longevity.
Look at Matt Kenseth. Look at Ryan Newman. I mean, they're in the same boat. I mean, maybe not to the level of I mean, Kenseth's to that level of Brad. You know, Newman arguably is at, I mean, a pretty high level.
Yep.
It's disappointing, but at the same boat, James, maybe it's good that we just talked about Formula One and how it's hard to run 20 years in Formula One. Maybe it's good that there's that type of competition in this sport. Yeah.
And, you know, one of my favorite podcasts ever, the Paz Reg Pod, which has been gone since David Smith got hired by Brad. But Kyle Busch is not even in his statistical prime yet. Right. He's got to get there. And he's he's the best driver of the last decade in this sport. He's a legendary driver. You know, if there was a, I don't know, we're not calling it Rushmore anymore, right? Because there's too many, there's too many guys. But you know, he's on the placard. You know, he's a driver of a decade. You know, not many guys get that moniker, like Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt, Kyle Busch. Like those are a handful of guys who get that.
He's only the second driver in history with 200 wins, James.
Oh gosh, yeah. And he's fighting Kevin Harvick tooth and nail for that 61st win in the Cup Series.
Right.
Kevin Harvick, man, ageless, that guy.
I mean, there's no scenario at this point now. We know teams are talking to him. There's no scenario where Kyle Busch is without a ride next year, right? I mean, sounds like he's going somewhere.
Yeah, even if it is the 18 on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
Brad, I think there's a lot of comparisons to what happened to Brad Keselowski here a little bit. People forget that Brad took a 1 year option and probably had a pay cut
right
to stay with Penske, off of a very close championship campaign where I think he finished second in the championship and came back one more year for them.
Well, that's the thing. If you're sorry to cut you off, but if you're Kyle,
No.
if you're Kyle, you don't want to do this again next year.
Oh God,
and
no.
I think that's the holdup. I think it has more to do with he doesn't want your team owners want to sign a 1 year deal because they don't know what they're getting after next year.
Right, and I think Kyle also doesn't want to sacrifice performance at all.
Right.
He wants.
Well, he all but confirmed in that press conference that Kaulig is one of the teams he's looking at, because he mentioned whether he'd want to go to a team and help build it up. And I really can't think of anybody else that likely is in the running unless the Rick Ware rumors were true, where he'd have to go in and build it up than Kaulig. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Rick Ware comparison is as close to what happened with Tony Stewart and Gene Haas as I think there is. Although I would add what Brad's doing right now is somewhat similar, but man, that team's performance isn't there.
Right.
Whereas
the thing is does Kyle doesn't bring a ton of money with it. I mean, the Stewart Haas thing worked because you had Haas.
That's right.
Brad
and Hendrick.
Yeah.
Haas and Hendrick. Yep.
Brad, you assume, got a piece of the pie at Roush as far as ownership that was part of his contract. Kyle going to Rick Ware makes no sense because he'd have to buy into it with his own money, and he doesn't have that money to buy into it with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Kyle Busch is just a racer, whereas
Kyle's got.
I think
not that Kyle's poor. Kyle's got money, but he doesn't have turn a team around money.
Right. Whereas Brad and Tony Stewart have other interests where they're invested. Right. Tony Stewart is a true racer, but he is also a slick businessman. If you haven't taken a look at his portfolio, he's done well. I mean, same with Brad. Well, he's invested in other things.
Brad didn't go and buy an underfunded team. He went and got a piece of the pie of a team that is not performing up to expectations, but is not an underfunded team. Right. I mean, they freaking Fenway,
Yeah.
So
yeah. And
they
have
the investor there already. Rick Ware Racing I guess they have Rick Ware Racing, but
yeah,
obviously that hasn't done anything for him.
And Brad is trying to do what Roger Penske did years ago, and he has interests elsewhere where he's invested and has finances coming in. And also he races, and I think that team will continue to grow. It's been a hard year, but they've obviously have a long way to go. But I don't think Kyle wants to struggle. He doesn't want to do that. You and I have talked many times. He loves his numbers. He loves his stats. He does not want to dip in performance. So
all right, James, I'm going to ask you this question every week until this is signed.
Let's go.
Where's Kyle Busch going?
Oh my
Pick
God!
Don't give me a list.
Yeah.
Your one team. Where's he going?
Yeah,
And it'll change every week probably.
Yeah,
so.
I've moved on this a little bit. I was saying Stewart Haas.
Mm-hmm.
The news with Eric Almirola shook me a little bit this week, but that's not over. I would slot them in at like my number 2. I'm now starting to think he'll come back to the 18. Oh, really? For a 1 year deal. That's where I'm at this week, at this current moment, at this very very moment. Ask me that next week, and I could say Kaulig. But right now, I feel like he'll come back to Joe Gibbs on a 1 year deal.
I think he'll be at 23-11.
Yeah, that might be a better option.
I think he'll be at 23-11. I think that makes the most sense. I think you've got the backing there to get him.
MJ don't care.
They've taken bold moves over there, and it keeps him with Toyota, which helps the truck team. And makes Toyota happy. So that's where I think he'll end up, despite all that I just said about Richard Childress Racing. Until I see that announcement, that just seems so unlikely to me.
I wonder if as a signing bonus, Pop would give him a watch.
That would be so funny. God, that would be a slap in the face.
Was that 10 years ago, or that was over 10 years ago now?
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. It's been a while.
Oh my God, Marty Smith was all over that. That was so much fun. That was such a fun era of NASCAR. My God.
It's been so long that a lot of people have forgotten about it.
Oh my God. That was, oh man, what an era. I have a fog over that time frame of NASCAR, but looking back on it now, I have some fondness for what was going on back then. That Kevin Harvick was fighting the Dillon boys while driving for Richard Childress.
Right?
There was that going on.
That was good stuff.
Oh my God. The 2010s, underrated.
It's like the attitude era of NASCAR.
There was a lot. That was we could call it the boys have at it era, because that's really when that all started.
That is true.
That really kicked up into high gear at that point.
Any other news, James? You've been scrounging the Twitters. Is anything on there?
Nope. My promise still exists that if Kyle Busch signs somewhere, we have the emergency pod. So
yeah. It could be tough. I'm going to be traveling next week, so
I know we might have to figure something out.
We'll make it work.
I don't know what we're going to do, man.
We can record with Skype. Heck, I can do it from my phone if I have to. We can do a 15-minute.
Yeah, I can do it on my phone. Yeah.
So we can make it work. We'll be here if news breaks about Kyle Busch. We are on constant Kyle Busch contract watch. It's now a section in the notes going forward. So there you go.
Yep.
With that, we move on to Daytona International Raceway for what I think both predicted would be one of the best races of the season. Certainly stacking up to be, which means it'll probably rain and end it halfway or something. It'll be some big letdown because that's what always happens with these overly hyped races. But James was able to get a lead on me last week with 92 points, James, over my 58. You got a 34-point win last week. You're up 33 on me in the picks. Thank goodness for you that I had 2 disqualifications in a row.
Oh, Jesus.
For you to be
Here
in the running.
Excuses. My God.
So with that, I get to pick first heading into Daytona, and I don't know that I want to pick first heading into Daytona.
Well, I've got some ideas, but I feel like you're gonna take my picks. So we'll see. Let's see what happens here.
Based on who I've got, I don't think I'm going to, but we'll see.
Okay.
NASCAR Xfinity Series kicks things off Friday night. It's the Wawa 250 powered by Coca-Cola. James, I'm going to go with the Junior Motorsports driver, and I am going to go with the driver that has won at Daytona before. I don't know. They might have all won at Daytona, but I'm going with Noah Gragson as my pick in this one.
There you go. I like that one. I've picked this guy a handful of times. I'm glad you left him for me. But he's the super speedway master of the Xfinity Series. I'm going to go Austin Hill.
That's a good one. He was there, but he won in February. I just feel like, didn't he? Or was it Talladega?
I think he won Daytona.
I think so. So I just kind of feel it. I don't like the repeat winner thing. I feel like it just doesn't.
It's so hard to do. Yeah. But that has also burned you in the past.
I know it has burned me.
Daniel
many times.
Hemrick.
Yeah, it's burned me many times.
I will never forget the Daniel Hemrick run that you were on. Oh my God. Every year or every time we'd go to a speedway, you'd say, Daniel Hemrick, and then I would pick him or something, and then he would win. Yeah, that was fun. God, that was fun.
Ridiculous.
But so Austin Hill, just to throw this out there, he won Daytona and Atlanta.
There you go. Okay. It's a good pick. It's a good pick. RCR at a plate track is good too. So
yeah.
But NASCAR Cup Series, Coke Zero Sugar 400. It's Saturday night this weekend. And I'm on the fence with this one, James. I've been struggling with this one a lot. But I'm going to go with my heart and not my brain, which is probably a mistake. And I'm going to pick Bubba Wallace as my pick.
Whoa!
To get the win
I didn't think you were going there.
Daytona. So.
Oh, you left my driver on the board.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Who are you going with?
Uh-oh. Oh, man. I don't know if I should take him now.
Why?
I feel like I should do something fun just because you did something fun.
Oh, okay.
So I
don't think it's that fun. If you go back and look at Bubba's performance,
he's good. No, he's good.
I mean, February he finished third.
Yeah, he's good.
I mean,
he's good. He's got a chance, and those Toyotas are going to be pushing to get him in.
Yeah, exactly.
Or Martin Truex.
I think Bubba's going to have more help than Truex does. I think Denny's going to.
Might.
I think if Denny has to choose, Denny's going with Bubba.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And that will be really interesting.
Yeah, he's got no allegiances to Martin Truex Jr.
No.
Eric, before I make my pick, can you believe that Martin Truex Jr. or Ryan Blaney is going to be left out of the playoffs?
I was prepared for you to ask that question, and no.
One of those guys is going to miss the playoffs.
You know what else
incredible.
Is really interesting? And I was going to pull it up before the show, and I took a nap instead. So, but the NBC put a graphic up yesterday of all the drivers outside looking in that have a win at Daytona, and there were
God, it's
8
good.
to 10 drivers on that list.
I am so excited for this race. I can't. I mean, I'm not. He's not my pick, but I am going to be rooting hard for Eric Jones to steal something.
Oh, me too.
And I'll be rooting for Bubba.
Yeah.
And so I was going to pick Ryan Blaney. Okay. I was going to because you left him up there.
He was my second choice.
I'm not going to do it.
He was my brain choice. Bubba was my heart choice.
I'm not going to pick him.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick with my heart.
Okay.
I want Brad Keselowski.
Man, that would be so much fun
to get into the playoffs. Yes. What a fun win that would be.
It would be, but it would totally be wasting a spot in the playoffs. I mean,
Probably.
It would be.
Talladega's on the list.
Yeah, but he's not going to win a championship. Bubba could win a championship.
Bubba, well,
he probably won't either, but he could. If Brad won a championship,
you've picked
you'd
Bubba
go.
Before.
Yeah, I picked Bubba before. Picked him at Michigan.
I was looking at.
No, I didn't pick him.
No, you
Michigan.
picked him for Atlanta.
That's right.
I was gonna say this is the first time we've picked Brad or Bubba all season, but you've picked him. You've picked Bubba before.
I like the way he looks. He's my super speedway pick. He's gonna be up there. He's gonna wreck.
I just remember how Brad drove Daytona.
I know.
For the 500.
Brad's good.
And I was like,
he's good, and that team's better than they've been. You know, and a quiet, one to watch too would be Chris Buescher.
Christopher Buescher.
Yes, Christopher Buescher. That's right. Oh, great. That's such a great story. Such a great story. I love that they did that. I love that even Mike Bagley was calling him Christopher Buescher.
Christopher Buescher. Yeah.
So much fun.
Yep.
So, except that the NBC Chiron lower third still showed Chris Buescher. Those guys. Yeah. Come on. Get your crap together.
Right. So, Eric, question.
Yeah.
If you're Ryan Blaney and or Martin Truex Jr., how much are you racing for points? How much are you racing for the win? What are you trying to do?
If you're Martin Truex Jr., let me put it this way.
You just gotta go for the win.
And
right?
I said it last week with Derek. If I would rather be in Martin Truex Jr.'s shoes than Ryan Blaney's shoes.
The hunter.
Because Ryan Blaney needs to look behind him, and Truex just has to win.
Oh my God.
I mean, honestly, if I was Truex, I would rather be out of a shot to point in. I would just want to have to win, and that's it.
He's 9 points out of second in points, and he's the cut line.
That's incredible.
Ryan Blaney. Oh man, the all-star winner.
I think if you're let's put it this way. Here's why I didn't pick Ryan Blaney, James, because Ryan Blaney should just go for the win.
He should.
He won't.
He should.
He won't. They're going to play it safe, and they're going to end up losing their spot in the playoffs because they're playing it safe. That's my prediction.
I am gonna, as much as I want to see the chaos, like of Eric Jones winning this race or something like that.
Yeah.
Bubba Wallace winning this race. I don't care. Yeah. I want to see somebody. I want to see the chaos.
Yeah.
My heart is gonna hurt for that guy, man, if he doesn't make it.
Yeah.
He's run such a strong season. He just doesn't have the win. He just does have the win. He just
didn't win. Didn't win a points race.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it's an incredible season. It's an incredible storyline going into Daytona, and I mean, honestly, at this point, the chaos is already there. I don't care who wins because no matter what, the chaos is still going to be part of it, unless everybody trying for a shot wrecks out and it's only the guys left that are already in.
Right.
Which could happen. It's Daytona. So.
Yep.
Yeah, the intensity is going to be high. There are going to be some stressed out people.
Man.
The only people that are comfortable are the ones locked in.
Yep. Yep.
So.
Golly, man. What a race. I'm looking forward to it so much.
Yeah, I don't think I've anticipated a race this much all season, and we've had some races that I've been pretty excited about. And
yep.
Yeah, this one's high on the list.
I'm looking forward to this one. This is going to be good.
Let's talk fantasy, James. I had to pull it up last week because you weren't here, so I'm leaving it up to you this week.
Oh, man. I know. I was listening to it. I was like, hey, this is kind of my area.
Don't mind my kids talking.
The boys are home.
Yes, we have a Google Home here in my office, and it really irritates me when they do their broadcast thing and talk over the Google Home when I'm on the podcast.
Oh, there's gonna be hell to pay.
I can't pull the plug out either.
Done. Oh man. So Eric, I benched Tyler Reddick for Kyle Busch.
Yes.
I mentioned that already. So that cost me probably the win over the week. But our winner, Barron Speedway, 206.
Yes.
Green Eggs and Hamlin second, and Smoky Comeback was third. Eric, you were right there.
I know.
Finished fourth.
I know.
It's been a bit since you won, so we're heading into Daytona with a chance here.
Yeah, well, I still have I don't have anybody that's out, so I've got options.
Yeah.
So in theory, I should be able to win because I'm sure a lot of other people are out of drivers.
Yep.
But
yep, I can pick from anybody. I'm not out of anybody yet.
Yeah.
So I'm ready to roll, baby. Now that being said, this is one of the great equalizers of our playoffs. The whole thing could come crashing down. All of my precious work and my penalty at Pocono, it's all going to come crashing down. Overall standings, I am in the lead. Fast at the Grass is second, about 125 points back, and then Green Eggs and Hamlin is still in third, about 163 points off of me. So, other than that, it's Rangers hanging in there. The champ is here. He's fourth. He's still there. After that, there's a pretty big gap. So, I'd say that's our top four as we get ready to head into the playoff run here. The home stretch, the final 10 races of the fantasy season, and then we can be done with this thing.
there you go. Yeah, thank God.
I know. Eric, you know, all I want. It's all I want is to win it one time, and I will never let it bother me again. Air quotes.
Right.
It'll bother me again. It
Yeah.
always will.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
You got any shout outs this week, James? You were off, so you probably got a ton of them, right?
Yeah, no, I wasn't paying attention to my phone at all while I was gone, other than to listen to a couple of podcasts. But shout out Derek Winter. Thank you, man, for stepping in. And that was a really great episode. You guys, I looked at the runtime. I told you, I looked at the runtime and I laughed. I'm like, yeah, he fits right in. We're all racing guys. We can't stop talking about it. So he did a great job and came prepared, and I really enjoyed actually just listening to the episode. It was kind of cool to just kind of listen in and see how it went. So
yeah, it was fun.
Good job. You guys did a great job.
We joke and all that, but it's nice to have you back, James. But yeah, Derek did a great job. It was nice to have him here, and nice to know we've got him on retainer if we need to fill in. So
yeah, I like mixing it up, and hopefully we've been. Rumor has it we've been circling around a possible guest down the road. So
yeah, I wanted to do that this week,
up a little bit.
It's been tough to schedule. So
yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
we'll keep that. Just let that be a tease. We'll let that be a tease.
There you go. If you're a long time listener to the show, or not a long time listener, if you've been listening for the last few weeks, you probably know who we're talking about. But
yep.
Any other shout outs, James?
Nope. That was my one big one for the week.
Okay. I'm going to shout out North Wilkesboro Speedway. We've got the late model series, or the Cars late model series coming up. Not this Wednesday, but next Wednesday. James, I'll be in person watching Dale Earnhardt Jr. take to the track.
My God.
But the reason I want to shout them out is they announced the entry lists for the limited late models and the street stocks for the same show. 50 limited late models on the entry list, 30 street stocks. And that's not counting any of the Cars Tour cars that will race in the big race. So great turnout of cars, it looks like, for North Wilkesboro. I would assume the stands will be packed, considering they've sold out other shows. Putting NASCAR Jesus on the track should definitely fill the stands at North Wilkesboro. So hopefully we get good weather and a fun show. But man, I can't wait to see North Wilkesboro in person, and a track I never thought I'd see a race at, let alone step foot on the ground.
That's going to be cool, man.
In its current condition before they remodel it. So
oh my God,
so excited, man, so excited.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm happy for you, man. This is gonna be really, really cool.
Cannot wait.
Yep, once in a lifetime deal.
Not sure there'll be a whole lot of content from it because I'm going as a fan, but hopefully I still haven't gotten proof of credentials for Darlington, but hopefully I'll have some good stuff there. So
forward to it.
There we go. How about a jackass, James? You got any jackasses this week?
Oh my God, do I? I had one. I just retweeted somebody a little while ago, and our buddy Todd reached out and said, "Jackass?" ? And I said yes. So I'm not going to mention it on here, but go look at my Twitter. And then, boy, I had a decent one, but I don't know if I want to go down that road.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to cut something out of the podcast.
No, don't cut anything out. So anybody who listens to this podcast knows that we are Michiganders, and myself being a lifetime Detroit Lions fan. I'm gonna divert from NASCAR racing for just a minute. I've been watching Hard Knocks of the Detroit Lions, which I've been waiting for my whole life, by the way. since Hard Knocks was on. I've thought, man, if the Lions ever get on there, that would be so cool. Well, they made it, and our jackass head coach Dan Campbell is just he is everything he has been advertised. So so while I was away on vacation, I didn't watch much TV. I finished up Better Call Saul, which I think is probably the greatest show, probably my favorite show I've ever watched. Definitely better than Breaking Bad now. They landed the plane. It was incredible.
That means I have to watch it.
You're going to have to watch it. I watched that, and then I watched Hard Knocks. And boy, am I, every week, he's just screaming out Jackass Corner to me. So I want to make sure I mention that at least once. So not a racing related jackass, but boy, a jackass nonetheless.
There you go.
Yeah.
I have this is a jackass light because it's more just a complaint, not really a jackass. I don't want to call him a jackass. You can't call the mayor a jackass, but would somebody please at NBC teach Jeff Burton how a microphone works?
Oh no!
That you don't need to scream into it because
oh no!
You know, James, I was really excited about the radio style broadcast the first time they did it, and the first couple times they did it was great. But I love Bagley. But
I do love Bagley, the Bagman.
I'm over the radio style broadcast.
Rick Allen called him in 2 consecutive sentences. He called him Bags and Bagman, which I really enjoyed. He couldn't figure out what he wanted to do there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so forced, and like the thing that makes radio great is that you have to paint an image of what's happening because you can't see it, and you can see it on TV, so it's just not necessary.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I hate to pick on something that NBC does that we liked before.
They do such a good job. It's hard.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I love NBC and I love Jeff Burton, but dude, you don't need to scream into the microphone. And the only thing that can make Jeff Burton louder is to put him outside with the cars, so he thinks he has to yell louder. I was so happy at the start of the Xfinity race when his microphone didn't work.
Eric, I did never notice this, but now that you mention it, like he's been on Nate Ryan's pod from time to time. Man, yeah, you got a point there.
He got the half a voice that Ward didn't get.
Yeah.
Ward mumbles, Jeff yells.
Jeff does yell a lot. Yeah.
And like Junior yells, Letarte yells, but none of them yell like Burton yells.
Rick Allen yells.
Yeah.
Rick Allen yells.
Yeah, but Rick Allen sounded subdued compared to everybody else this weekend.
Oh man!
But
when he said Bagman, I just it's great.
My true jackass, though, James. This one also hurts a little bit to do. True jackass this week is the ARCA series.
Oh, I had a feeling you were gonna get this in the pod somehow. Holy smokes.
So if everybody missed it, I don't even know what track it was. They're racing on a dirt track yesterday in the afternoon, and coming to I think 25 to go, the battle for the lead. And all of a sudden, a slow car wrecks, hits the wall, digs into the dirt, and the driver racing in second slams into the back of him, sends him flipping down the front stretch. Oh, my God, it was just incredible. Basically, one car at speed and one car stopped was the impact. Horrible wreck. And looking back at it and watching the replays, it's really easy to be critical of it because it looks like a typical ARCA wreck. But looking back at it, what happened, I mean, there's nothing anybody could have done differently there. The only thing that you could say is that maybe if it wasn't on a dirt track and there wasn't a giant dust cloud for the drivers to be racing into, but it was an accident that happened and the car came to a stop, and before they could throw the caution, he was slammed into. So that's not particularly why I'm pointing it out. So I got to watch the ARCA race, or at least part of it, at Michigan before I went down to the media center to do other things because I was bored. In this series, and I don't know how to fix it, and I don't want to see the ARCA series go away, but, man, you got like 6 cars that are competitive, and everybody else is so slow that it's just a moving chicane, and the difference in speed, like at Michigan, was so incredible. Like, it looked like cars were stopped when the leaders were going by them, and just somebody's going to get hit and somebody's going to get hurt. We've already seen stupid wrecks in ARCA. It just happens. You got a bunch of guys with not much experience. I think it was NFJJ this week did a video on YouTube about what happened to the ARCA series. It was him, or I don't know. Just look it up. What happened to the ARCA series? It came out earlier today.
And it was at Springfield, which is ARCA's been racing there for I don't know. I mean, I remember watching that
It was
race.
a freak accident, but the problem is there's so many of those freak accidents in this series because there's such a lack of experience. And again, I don't know how to fix it. You know, better car counts, more people showing up, and maybe some drivers going home would help. I mean, right now, pretty much all you got to do is show up with a car that runs and you can field it. Maybe sticking to minimum speed rules. I don't know. But it's just sad. I mean, I remember watching ARCA at Michigan back before the Xfinity series. Well, the Busch series then was racing at Michigan. And the ARCA series was a competitive series. It was fun to watch. It was like watching any of the other series. And it's just become, you know, a place for somebody to go beat up on everybody else and run away with the race. And like I said, the top 3 to 6 guys have speed and nobody else does. And I don't know. It's a bummer to see what's happened to that series. I hoped with NASCAR buying it that it would help. I think NASCAR needs to inject something into it to get it where it needs to be.
I was thinking we need to get off any tracks over a mile at this
that
point.
wouldn't hurt, but at the same time, I mean, these guys do need to have a place to go to learn how to race at Michigan before they go get in the truck series. Because, you know, Charlie Crawl is the media guy for ARCA, and he was on Twitter today defending his sport, his series, and I don't blame him. And he's got the point that if you get rid of the ARCA series, then these guys are going to do this learning in the truck series and the Xfinity series instead. And we don't want that. That's what we're complaining about with the ARCA series. So I don't know. It feels like there's got to be some common ground there, but these guys are all smart too, and they should have figured it out by now. So maybe there's not. But man, it just and he's right. You know, ARCA can go 3 years without having something like this happen, and then something like this happens, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, here it is." But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough.
Yep, it's a tough series, man.
So, like I said, it's a reluctant jackass. I didn't have anybody else to pick this week, so ARCA, you got it. But it's with a heavy heart because I love the series, and being from the Midwest, you know, the home of ARCA, I want it to be successful, and I think mostly it's just a disappointment that it's just not there yet. The pandemic hurt it. You know, the acquisition from NASCAR happened at the wrong time with the pandemic and everything, and it's probably nobody's fault. I hope it can get what it needs to get and gets back to, you know, what it used to be. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's you could have done what I did and take the cop out and go with Dan Campbell, but that's fine.
Yeah.
So
no ill will against NASCAR. I mean, Jackass isn't always about somebody.
No, it's for fun, man.
Yeah.
We just joke around. It's all good.
It's the thing you go, oh man, this week. So
yeah.
All right. James, if somebody wants to chat with you on social media, how can they do that?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can follow me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. There'll be all kinds of stuff from North Carolina and South Carolina and stuff over the next couple of weeks. Facebook, our website is our Facebook page is facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. You can find the podcast at thesuperspeedway.com. You can find old episodes of the podcast show notes, links to articles we discussed, past race coverage photos, and much, much more. Hopefully future race coverage as well with Darlington coming up. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, wherever you found us today. We hope you subscribe and continue to listen for new episodes each week. The NASCAR regular season is coming to a close this weekend. We go to Daytona International Speedway. For the Coke Zero Sugar 400, we will know who our 16 playoff drivers are. We will know what sort of chaos will come about. I'll be on the road next week when we do the podcast, but we will find a way to make it happen and record anyway. So we'll be back next week, maybe even early next week, to break everything down and chat about the playoffs. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.